This is IGN. An irresistible global treasure hunt and far and away the best indie story this century. This is your IGN review of Indiana Jones and the Great Circle by Luke Riley. It's been over 30 years since I wore out my VHS copy of Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. Since then, the film franchise has been in a state of escalation. Where do you go after uncovering the literal Holy Grail? Aliens, then time machines, apparently. Indiana Jones and the Great Circle is the perfect antidote to all of this, one that uses its own figurative dial of destiny to propel us back in time to Indy's prime. The result is easily one of the best indie stories across both the games and the movies, with painstakingly detailed environments, wonderfully atmospheric tomb raiding and puzzle solving, a pitch-perfect score, and quite possibly the greatest punch sound effect in the business. While it does stumble occasionally as a stealth-focused sneak-em-up, The Great Circle is an otherwise grand and gorgeous globe-trotting adventure that left me giddy as a schoolboy. Yes, it's true that bringing Indiana Jones back to the big screen twice after he literally rode off into the sunset was probably a poor choice, but having Machine Games craft an indie experience inspired by all the best games in that development team's past, Bethesda chose wisely. Machine Games' most immediate legacy is the modern Wolfenstein series, and there's certainly some of that on show in The Great Circle. Like The New Order and its excellent prequel and sequel, The Great Circle is first-person and highly story-driven, and I'd wager if there's anyone who hates Nazis as much as Indy, it's the Gestapo-gutting, SS-slaying B.J. Blazkowicz. The Great Circle is not, however, a bloodthirsty exercise in double-fisted lead-flinging fury. Unlike Wolfenstein, The Great Circle's focus is patient and slower-paced exploration and stealth, where guns are rarely and barely a viable option. The first-person perspective blesses The Great Circle with a fantastic sense of scale. Looking up in awe of the Great Pyramid or staring out at a giant Nazi battleship perched atop a mountain in the Himalayas simply has a more pronounced effect at eye level. It also does wonders for immediacy, with puzzle solving in particular benefiting greatly. Picking up and poring over documents and clues, directly manipulating and placing objects, and watching the results unfold in front of your eyes makes it feel like you're personally inside of some of the world's most expensive escape rooms. Puzzles come regularly, and they're mostly light lifting, but I've encountered at least a couple of slightly curlier ones that left me smugly satisfied that I wasn't stumped. If you do hit a roadblock, there's a baked-in hint system that will only interject if you take an extra photo of the offending puzzle with your in-game camera. It's a smart and courteous way of offering aid only when asked that will keep players off their phones and in the game. On top of this, it's really the best showcase for the incredible amount of granular detail Machine Games has stuffed into seemingly every surface in The Great Circle. From streak marks on freshly wiped glass to the slow trickle of wax from a candle lighting your way down an ancient stairwell, these are things that wouldn't be noticed from any other viewpoint. Are they entirely necessary to make The Great Circle a great game? Maybe not, but they do paint a picture of a project where no flourish is too small if they make the world look and feel even a fraction more authentic. On the topic of knockouts, combat in The Great Circle is satisfyingly brutal without being gratuitously violent, which is in keeping with its family-friendly, swashbuckling adventure serial roots. I love the deeply impressive sound design, which makes every strike sound like a golf club being slammed into a huge bunch of celery, and I love how visceral the fighting is in first person. You block and parry blows with the correct timing and deliver quick jabs and loaded-up power punches. On top of that, Indy's bullwhip can be used to quickly disarm enemies and stun them long enough to either wade in and whack them or scoop up their dropped weapon and bludgeon them with it. On the topic of guns, though, Indy's personal revolver is sadly a big disappointment. I used it all of twice, but both were still total anticlimaxes. Indiana Jones and the Great Circle nails nearly everything about the best parts of the storied franchise upon which it's based, from title card and location fonts to Harrison Ford's finger waggle, but its successes go way beyond its faithfulness to the finer points of the films. With a host of gorgeous and lavishly detailed levels, satisfying combat hinged on jaw-breaking haymakers, and a focus on slow-paced exploration, platforming, and puzzle solving, interspersed with a handful of high-voltage action scenes, The Great Circle is an irresistible and immersive global treasure hunt for indie fans who felt underserved by the likes of the Dial of Destiny and Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. Moreover, it sets itself apart from this decade's increasingly homogenized third-person action games by opting for a classic first-person perspective inspired by the likes of the Chronicles of Riddick: Escape from Butcher Bay. If you butt your head against its generally basic stealth systems, cracks will show, but when played as intended, The Great Circle immediately ranks amongst the best Indiana Jones games ever, and its story is closer to Raiders of the Lost Ark and The Last Crusade than anything that's come after. Some pundits may claim it belongs in a museum, but museums are for dusty old relics you shouldn't ever touch. The Great Circle doesn't belong in a museum. It belongs on your hard drive where you can play the heck out of it. Indiana Jones and the Great Circle's IGN score? 9 out of 10. Thanks for listening to IGN. My name is Tony Jackson, and for the latest Indiana Jones and the Great Circle updates, visit us at IGN.com.
Spoken Layer.